Please be advised that in order to foster quality discussions in each episode, we will spoil the stories in each game and text we talk about. Good news is, 90% of the titles we cover are old enough that many of you might already know all about them. That said, we do encourage you to play and read before listening.
Listen up now, when we leave on, get ready for Arcade Bookshop. Break your ball, play a game, check it out. Don't be late, listen up now, when we leave on, get ready for Arcade Bookshop.
Caleb, this is our first non-holiday special episode of Arcade Bookshop with video.
It's also
Let me say that again.
second ever episode with video.
Well, listen here. Let me say it again because that came out stupid. Caleb,
Did.
this is our first non-holiday special episode of Arcade Bookshop with video. And,
That sounded the same to me.
well, no, because holiday special went together that time.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I've been
it's
drinking.
not... Yeah, well, me too. So at this point, whenever it comes out, there will probably have been a few with video, because I think all of our holiday special ones will have come out by now. So we're here on a regular episode for the first time with video.
Yay.
So that's provided that everything has gone well and we've sorted out all of our technical difficulties, since we have no idea
this
what
could
we're doing.
completely crash and burn, and we could not
Yeah.
have any video at all.
So if you're listening to this and there's no video, for the first like minute and a half, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck are you guys talking about?" And that's okay. But if
It's very late to talk about this, but we also recorded an actual ad.
yeah, and
I really liked how that came out, and we probably aren't even using it anymore by the time this episode drops. Maybe have a better one.
You'll probably have heard 3 or 4 by now.
I hope
But
so.
I think they're coming out. I think we're a clever couple of guys, and I think they come out well.
Professional ad makers, that's for sure.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go into ad making.
Advertisement,
Yes.
ad making. Maybe it's not the right career choice for you if you can't even think of the term of the whole industry.
It's part of it. It's part of advertising.
That is part of it. Ad making is important in advertising.
But if it's your first time tuning in, these are our faces. And our faces, they thank you so much for listening to this fun little show we've created. Since we recorded our holiday episodes ahead of time, out of order, they got published. This is also the first regular episode with our new segment, Top 5 Times, which
Yeah.
we will get to at the end of the conversation today. So, Caleb, were you going to
Yes?
say something?
Yes, I just wanted to tell the listeners, if you are viewing this on your YouTube or Spotify or whatever else has podcast on video, I own like 5 comfortable shirts. So I'm going to wear the same shirts every fucking episode probably. Like, you're going to be like, what year is this? This guy has been wearing this shirt for the last 3 years in a row.
You know the best way to get away with that?
What?
You can just get a comfortable Arcade Bookshop shirt, like I'm wearing.
Well, if somebody would send me one, maybe I would wear one.
Well, the thing is, we live a half an hour away from each other, and it's
Stupid, you should move.
yeah, it's too close to mail it, but too far to drive there every day.
That's true.
So you'll get yours. You know what, Caleb? By the time this comes out, you'll have yours.
I probably will.
You'll probably
and
have
to be
another.
fair, I do own like 50 shirts. I just only wear like 5 of them at home.
Are you bragging about how many shirts you own?
I'm bragging a little because most of them don't even fit me anymore, and I keep them because I like to hoard my shirts.
I keep them on the chance that I'll lose weight.
That's my goal, but it's never going to happen.
I'm probably on the same page as you, but I just keep trying.
It's something with aging. It just it does bad things to faces and it does bad things to bodies. It makes you saggy and gravity just finally pulls you down and then everything hurts badly.
Yeah, I just can't. I have a problem with getting rid of shirts that don't, well, clothes that don't fit me anymore. I always feel like the second that I do that, I've given up.
He's
So
giving
I
up on
feel like,
trying to lose weight.
yeah. So like I keep all of it, all of my smaller clothes. I'll get rid of larger stuff, but it not the other way around. Because otherwise, it's just like I've surrendered to the fact that I could be actually in shape again.
Well, for me, my main problem is I am morphing into an undeniable meatball of a man. And with the meat comes the meat on the arms, which is actual muscle underneath what layer of fat I have. And the problem is I have a lot of shirts that fit technically, but then around my arms and shoulders, they're super tight and I just look ridiculous because then it's like a dress over my stomach, like it just drapes over. And that seems to be my wardrobe. I still am holding out that for whatever reason I might be able to lose weight but keep muscle. But then I also have this stupid thing where I still wear large shirts and I should probably accept that maybe I'm just an extra large man. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to keep wearing the large because I like them.
I always liked that look though. Like when I was
Like
like,
tight.
yeah, well, yeah, like around my arms and then drapey
Mhm.
over my body, because I don't know, it always felt good because that meant that I got thin where I needed to, around my gut, and
Yeah.
bigger where it mattered, also around my arms.
Well, the
You know.
issue arises when you do the old raise your arm for some reason and your stomach hangs out.
Yeah,
Because your
but
arms are tight and it pulls up the shirt and then your
yeah.
your gut flops out and everyone sees how pasty and hairy it is and then the children cry and the women they faint and it's bad. It's bad for everybody.
Well, at my most in shape, I was like borderline anorexic, so my gut was just flat, and it didn't bother me that much. Now I'm on the same page as you because my gut's starting to hang.
Mm, yeah, once upon a time I had a delicious set of abdominals.
Mm-hmm.
Abdominals? I'm thinking of the
Abomin
abominable snowman.
abominables.
Abs, abdominals.
Delicious abominables.
Abominable. It is abominable now. I can't say that word either. But now I got the power belly. Like you could see all my abs, but then it's a gut too. It's amazing how it's almost turtle shell like. And I don't take HGH or anything like that, so it's just natural turtle shell.
I never heard that one before.
Yeah, it's terrible. Anyway, we read a book today. No, we didn't. We played a game today that read like a book. No, it didn't read like a book either. We played a visual story.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But before we get to it, I do have an actual question for opening this up. And I don't want to talk about what the game we played today, because we're gonna pretend like the game title isn't in the title of this podcast, and let it be a
Okay.
surprise when we actually start talking about it. Okay? So my question is, what do we think about video games as pieces of art? And I'm not talking like classic retro games, which in retrospect are quote unquote pieces of art. I'm saying when video games are made and sold for their aesthetic or for their metaphor or to strictly tell a story without complicated game mechanics. What do we think about video games as pieces of art like that?
I like them. I feel like we've been touching on that a little more. Like we did Oxenfree, which was borderline not a game. I've been looking into a lot of art games actually, such as this one that we played for this episode. And I've always been a fan of like visual novel games, which even a Deja Vu and to the same degree Uninvited and I can't think of the castle game all of a sudden. Shadowgate.
Hmm.
You didn't play those ones, but those are all just point and click puzzle type games for the NES, but those play like visual novels as well, where it's just text based and then images. And now we can have really cool versions of those. And I would really like to see what VR can do with some of these. upcoming games that are going to be more artistic in merit.
That would be interesting. It might have already happened. I'm not sure.
I'm sure it has, but I haven't. I
Yeah.
don't got VR money.
This is a slight digression, but I've heard that maybe we talked about that in the Resident Evil episode, but about Resident Evil VR. Did we talk about that?
I don't remember. I do not recall, sir.
But I guess they did that for either Resident Evil 7 or 8. And I guess it's like absolutely horrifying.
I could imagine. Imagine if you
Yeah.
opened that door and it looked real and a zombie just came at you for real. Yeah, you'd shit your pants a little.
Yeah, well, and like the graphics nowadays, my God, like
I always wanted to do one of those. Like they have zombies, but they also just have all kinds of genres now where you go to a warehouse where they have obstacles and then you put on the VR to make it look like you're in an actual place and then you're navigating like a haunted house or something.
oh yeah,
And like that would be fucking cool.
that would be cool.
Probably expensive as shit though.
They
I've
have.
only played VR a couple times and it is incredible.
I haven't done anything real cool. I did something at I did one thing, but it was pretty simplistic. It wasn't that great. But
I went
I
hog
think,
wild in a Best Buy one time with their Oculus. And I was just
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was
just
using.
punching the employees out, and I went crazy. I unhooked the thing off the thing and just started. Oh, it was a massacre. It was great.
I think there's a if it's I don't know if it's open yet. I think there's a VR place down in the Strip District in the terminal in Pittsburgh where we are. I didn't look into it yet, but we walked down there the one day. I think they're putting I don't know. It looks like one of those really cool ones where you have like the I might be totally wrong here, but I think it's one of those ones where they have like the platform that's kind of like a treadmill and you can actually
yeah.
like run in place.
You could buy like those Ready Player One things. You could buy
Yeah.
this for your house now.
Really? That's crazy. That's
They've been out for
ridiculous.
years. You just you run in place and stuff, but they're ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, to proceed with this idea here, I'm sure it's from your answer you're going to be on this page, but I was going to say, are these video game art pieces, are they technically video games? Sounds like you consider them to be actual video games, and I was kind of thinking of it when I was writing this. About deja vu because it is kind of the same idea, but somehow as technology has progressed, and we're in 2023 where video games are so far more interesting and advanced than they ever were. Playing something that's just a story doesn't feel like a video game to me anymore. Like when it has more modern graphics and capabilities and all that stuff, it doesn't feel like I'm playing it and I don't feel like I'm it doesn't feel like a game. You know what I mean?
It depends what the game requires of you. If it just requires you just to click random things to make things happen, that's just an interactive story. It's not a game. Like today's game we covered, I would not actually consider that a game. That's an interactive art piece, if anything.
Mm-hmm. That's actually exactly what my note that I wrote down was. Because technically, in terms of the literal wordage, like literal phrase video game, they're like images that can be manipulated to achieve an objective, no matter how simple. But like I just said, it just seems like that feels like an antiquated definition now. So I did notice that they are starting to call these kinds of things interactive stories and video games. Like they're saying like they're putting an and in between there, which is interesting. And I guess technically it's a video game because especially if it's on a console, you have the control over it, and it won't happen unless you decide to. But
that's the same with a book, though. A book
that's
doesn't get
true.
read unless you read it.
That's true, also. But yeah, books are more art, wouldn't you say?
Well, this actually goes with the conversation we were having off air where we find it could be difficult to get people who enjoy video games to also enjoy books. Usually it's not usually, but it's not always the same crowd that enjoys both things, which is why this podcast is unique. It's the only podcast I know of that covers both video games and books. But obviously, there are people who would want that because there are games made as visual stories. So there are people who do want just a story, but the interactive part of a game that goes along with it.
Yeah, I feel like it's more like if you buy like a or if you go to a museum and you're experiencing a painting. I'm losing my train of thought as I'm saying this. It's like paintings and photography. It just feels more like buying or music even. Damn it, Caleb.
I didn't tell you to drink that big beer. I was
You were
talking
talking.
about visual stories and how modern audiences, you have people who only play video games, people who only read, but you do have the cross people who actually like both things, and that's where they would gravitate towards these visual games because these interactive stories are very popular on things like Steam and like on the indie market, and a lot of people actually make their master theses. Is thesis a word or is it just thesis? Your master thesis would be one of these types of games. Like a lot of people do these as art projects and stuff, and that's how they get
Okay.
their degrees.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point for it's a really good reason for these to exist. Um and my next thing was going to be like are they worth the money to play them even when they're inexpensive? But it is really that's a good point that it's so rare that these two things intersect, and this is an opportunity for them kind of to do that. But do you think those people are buying those games? Like, how popular do you think they are?
It's a niche market. The people who are buying the new Grand Theft Auto game and loving that probably aren't playing these games. If they are, it's not something they go out of their way to get their hands on. I would imagine there are some people like me who do like, again, like games like Grand Theft Auto, but I also like story heavy games like, the Zelda series. And games like this appeal to me. Like today's episode is more about a visual poem than even a story.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go into stuff like that, that's like I would say the harder end of this kind of thing versus like a deja vu where that's still very interactive, but you're solving mysteries, you're solving puzzles. It's not, oh, you're just clicking things to make them happen. I mean, some games can almost just be like you were talking about a museum. They could be in a museum as, oh, people walk up and they just press buttons and things light up. Like it's not that much different. Um, Obviously, people take away things differently. So some people could play one of these games and they just, oh, this is boring. I don't like this at all. While someone else could be deeply moved, such as like if we read a good poetry collection, some people read the same poetry collection and it's like, this is the most boring, but ridiculous shit ever. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand any of these metaphors. I don't like this at all. And it's just, it's a matter of taste.
Yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say I guess it like depends on your interests and your mood. And personally, I feel like as as a couple of guys running a podcast where we need to be constantly playing and researching both sprawling games and books all the time. Even though even though it doesn't feel like these are technically like games, it's a really nice break when it's something short and sweet and uncomplicated uh to dive into as opposed to like like huge games like Zelda or whatever, like Grand Theft Auto, even like
These
things that
games generally aren't challenging or demanding. The only thing they demand is your attention.
exactly, and barely even that really. Like you can think of them as movies almost, and like choose your own adventure kind of thing, because that's kind of the way it goes, and yet they don't
Mhm.
always play out that way, like multiple endings or anything like that, but it's that kind of thing. Like press this button for this to happen, as opposed to go to page whatever to see this happen. Um, and that's really the only way it's actually a video game, in my opinion, also. But so today's topic aside, as I mentioned before, what do you think is the best example of an interactive story that you actually enjoyed? Interactive story / video game.
I mean, obviously, games like Deja Vu I really liked, but those are, I mean, they can be categorized as visual novels to some people. I wouldn't personally. I found those were far too interactive because it's like a mystery game. It's just point and click, you
Yeah, I
know?
was gonna say it's a little bit different. I feel like there's a
I
lot
just I
more.
brought those up because people like I looked online and that like people did consider those like visual novels almost like the early
Yeah,
version of that genre, but I personally don't consider those visual novels. I think those
it,
are puzzle games.
yeah, because I get it, because like I was thinking of that as I was writing this up, but it's just different because like the interactive stories, they're gonna happen no matter what. Like eventually you're gonna progress, and like no matter what, like there's no puzzle solving, you know.
Mhm.
Like Deja Vu, I if I wasn't playing that for the show, I probably wouldn't have finished it, or it would have taken me a really long time anyway. Because there's like you have to actually think, you know.
Yeah.
You have to try things, take things, put them back, talk to people, or die and then not talk to that person. Like you have to continuously experiment until you can progress and get to the end. Um, Whereas an interactive story is happening either way. Like you like the only experimenting you're doing is trying to click the right thing on the screen to get to the next point, which is always going to happen eventually.
Yeah. I was just looking up visual novels because I watched a video on an NES one that I think it was actually for the Famicom. Someone made English translation recently or in the last few years, but it's called Metal Slater Glory, and it almost looks like the technology they used for it was pretty impressive because half the screen looks like an anime, like a really good anime for the time, and then the bottom half is your visual novel, is just the text, you know?
Hmm.
And it almost plays like a movie. I haven't played the game yet, so I don't know the mechanics, but I'm pretty sure it's really close to just being like reading like a manga or something because I don't even know if you're clicking like I'm sure there has to be action. You have to be able to play it. It's a game. But from my understanding, that is a really, really good example of that. So anyone, I'd recommend looking up some videos on that and checking it out because I was like blown away that that was for NES.
What was
Because I was
it
looking
called
at, it, I was like,
again?
oh, this looks really good. It is called, I think, Metal Slater Glory.
Okay.
I was gonna send that to you. I just completely it slipped my mind, but it looked like amazing, just the visuals and I couldn't figure out exactly what the gameplay is other than, you pick options, like you said, like a choose your own adventure kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
People ask you questions, you answer them, but I don't think it's a game as in you're moving an avatar or anything like that ever. But it looks really interesting. I do want to play that sometime. I'm sure it's on my emulator, but I don't know if I got the English dub on there.
Mm.
Um, but that just looked like a really like that kinda opened my eyes when I saw that video to how I mean, going back 30 plus years, how you can do a game, like, make a game like that, that people would be really, really interested in, and now with modern technology, you could have basically just a movie and a book combined that people play. And you
Yeah.
could do like, especially when we talk about VR. Imagine what you could do with the VR is you're walking through a dream. You can, we talked about, I don't think we talked about on here, at least not yet, but games like LSD Emulator, where it's basically like walking through an acid trip or walking through dreams or things like that. I'm always interested in games like that because they're what are considered non games, which I think the visual novel, visual stories, and visual poems are borderline non-games. Like today's episode, I would consider it a non-game. But I think as an art piece and as something that can inspire you or just make you want to be creative in your own right, I think these are very beneficial. Again, niche audience, not these aren't going to be bestsellers for the most part. Like These aren't going to be in the game magazines as the top game of the year or anything. They're not going to sell millions of dollars, but they'll do well enough that people will keep making them.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know what my favorite interactive story has been so far?
Paper Mario. I don't know.
That's a video game.
That's a RPG.
I gotta say, it's this little game called Oxenfree that you mentioned already.
Jerk! God damn it! Fucking Bryce! Oh, why would you say that to me?
No, I didn't like it that much, but
It was a good example. It just wasn't for my taste, but it did have cool visuals, and it was exactly what we've been describing.
yeah. Did you ever play? Probably not. Did you ever play Heavy Rain?
I don't think so. Is that like a noir game?
I think so. I remember it had like an origami thing on the front cover.
Let me look that up because I feel like I have, but I don't. I definitely didn't own it.
Yeah. It was like huge when it was coming out. It was, I don't know if it was for the visuals or for the story or what, but I remember looking at videos of it because I was thinking about it looked interesting and I really liked origami. But I remember looking into it to get it, and I was like, this isn't a game. You just press buttons to make things happen. Like, it's not, there's no strategy, there's no thinking, there's no doing anything. It's just watching the screen when you're pressing square. Like, I don't, I'm not
I'm pretty
interested.
sure I watched a video on that. I don't think I actually played that, but I remember when it came out, it was one of those things that was popular, but probably after people played it, they're like, it's not a fucking game. It looked cool in the trailer. Like,
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, I mean, it sounds like there's still a lot of people who talk about it, but it's just like the quick time event things in like Resident Evil or Resident Evil 4, I think, and games like that. Um, and even like you can think of like um, Mario Party mini games where you just like jamming a button to a bunch of times to make something happen fast, stuff
yeah.
like that. It's just boring, I mean, I'm sure the story's cool, and that's probably why people are still talking about it. But again, it comes back to like I don't think that's technically a video game. But and I don't this next one I know nothing about, but had I've had someone recommend it to me, and I think I heard something about it on another podcast, but I'm not sure which one. But it's called The Quarry. You heard of that?
No, I have not.
That just came out last year. Um, I think there's something about there being like a bunch of different characters. I don't know if there's like multiple endings or storylines or what, but it's like I think it's supposed to be like a thriller or like a horror kind of thing. It does look cool, and I think there might be popular actors in it. Um, but I mean, I'd check it out. I don't think what my friend does is he buys games, hard copy games from GameStop and plays them through and tries to play them within a week. And if he does, he returns them to GameStop for a full refund. So he just never actually loses any money on video games.
That's clever.
I think he did that with The Quarry. But yeah, that's the most recent example that I know of. But
there are some indie games that I am not sure. My levels are working. I'm not sure. I mean, they don't count as visual novels, but they're very close to what we're talking about. I think of like that Slender Man game that came out where you're just in the woods collecting papers. That's it. And then Slender Man like comes out and spooks you. He gets you. And I was like, that's very close though, because you have an objective, which is a video game standard. But other than just walking and grabbing stuff, it could just easily be a non-game. Like you're just there to get scared. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different genre, but it seems like it's in the same vein. And you can I could easily see one of those games just go on into a bunch of creepy scenarios that you're in and you don't really do anything other than walk through, like, say, a haunted house. And I would play the shit out of a game where you just walk through a haunted house and get scared all the time. Like, that'd be great. Like, just things pop out at you and you have to run away, but you can't die really. and you can't win anything, like I would still
Yeah.
play that.
I
If
was
it was
gonna.
done very well and scary, and the graphics were great.
It's funny because there's a lot of game. Like I feel like if you overthink this idea, you can ruin like most games for yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of games where it's like I'm not really doing anything though,
Mm.
and you can just totally spoil it for yourself. I
I
think
mean, how many games where you're just grinding away for
I
XP?
was gonna
That's
say like even Final
terrible.
Fantasy like
That's worse than these kind of games, you know?
kinda, and somehow I enjoy those so much. But you were talking about like horror ones. I've never played these, but have you played the like Amnesia games?
Is that the one where you're like in a hospital and you get like powers,
I don't know. I
like telekinesis? I might be thinking of another game. There's so many cool horror games I've seen, but they all blend together in my head.
I think if I'm thinking of the right thing, it should be Amnesia. I know there's like it looks more like dungeony. There's like I think there's like pig monsters and shit, but I don't think you have any like weapons. It's just like evading and walking through.
Let's see here, Bryce. Amnesia, Descent. No,
Yeah.
this does look like a creepy dungeon game. This almost looks like a Lovecraftian type of game.
Yeah, I think kinda.
Yeah. You
I
know what I have seen? I've seen some douchebag on YouTube playing this. I don't know. I say douchebag because a lot of those playthrough guys are really fucking annoying
oh yeah.
because every time something gets the screaming aside, whenever they play the horror games and they're over the top with the screaming when something happens, they're like, you're not even scared. You're just screaming because it's a reaction. But they're just over the top reactions and they're nonstop talking about stupid shit. That's fine for maybe even that kind of game. But when you have, one of these visual novel type of games where it's about getting absorbed into the story and they just don't shut up. They're just having their little quips and their nonsense and trying to make jokes through the whole like serious video. It's like, shut the fuck up. So I do not appreciate that. I mean, some people do. I do not appreciate those kind of YouTubers and
Yeah.
streamers.
Well, I have all of those Amnesia games on Steam, so if my computer can run them, that might be something to play. I think they're pretty
Well,
cheap.
my computer does not handle certain visual games too well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember how big those are, so mine probably wouldn't either if yours wouldn't. But okay, that was a long intro. We're at 33 minutes, so welcome to Arcade Bookshop.
Your cold opens are worse than mine on
I know.
DPW. Like,
If you didn't know, you're listening to Arcade Bookshop. Half an hour in, and that's where we talk about video games and their literary counterparts for all of you who love to play and to read. Thank you again so much for listening and joining us today. It really means a lot to us when you choose to tune into our thoughts when there's so many other podcasts out there. I'm Bryce Yoli, and as always, I'm here with my pal and cousin-in-law, Caleb James.
what's up?
Today, we're talking about the interactive story / video game, A Memoir Blue, which I realized a moment ago I wanted to keep it a secret, but it's been right here all along.
Yeah, I was trying. I don't know why you were keeping it a secret, but I caught that you were, so I would not say the name of the
Yeah.
game in the intro. But yay!
But you
Bryce
know
found it
what?
on his
Like
thingy.
I mentioned at the beginning, they know what they're listening to already because the title is in
A
you know,
Memoir
the name
Blue.
is
You
in the
gotta say it.
title of
You
the
gotta say it deeper, Bright. You gotta be almost sensual. A
Memoir
Memoir Blue. Yeah, ASMR style. A Memoir Blue.
A Memoir Blue.
Though this game is Japanese, so maybe we should have did it in like a Japanese. I don't know what A Memoir Blue is in Japanese.
That was
I'll
about
look it up.
I was about to do a phony Japanese
Don't
thing,
do
and I
that.
don't want to. Yeah,
Don't do that. Don't do that. Just don't do it. Talk about it,
I'm
but
not
don't do
going
it.
to.
I'm gonna do it. No.
So, A Memoir Blue was released in 2022, also, which you can play on pretty much anything, and it's only like $8, and I got it for $5 on sale on the PlayStation Store.
As did I on Steam.
Oh,
By the
good.
way, the Japanese title, if this translate is correct, is Kaizo Dokuburu.
That's much better.
Let me see if I was correct. Hold on. It's not gonna say. Wait, let me do that again.
Sounded,
That was pretty
that was
close.
pretty close.
I don't think I was too
That was a
bad.
good job.
There was a lot of accents on that. I didn't know how to say those, but I did it right.
That
I've
was
been
good.
studying Japanese for a long time, and I cannot speak it at all.
Is that one that you do on Duolingo?
Yeah, I've been doing it for years, and I'm the grammar and stuff. I'm okay, and I can say the words now somewhat. And if you just have me say, random words, I could do that. But putting together sentences on the fly, not so good. Reading it, like not, the hiragana and the kanji are definitely different. I could read the hiragana. I cannot read the kanji at all. I've been trying, and I'm just never going to memorize 8 million kanji.
I don't know what that means, but
The fucking weird characters. The hiragana is just the
okay.
phonetics. So it's just
Oh,
their
okay.
shapes, but it's almost like our alphabet. But the kanji is just, the 1,000, 20, 30, 40, whatever thousand random
Gotcha.
lines and squiggles.
That's
The
crazy.
hieroglyphics they use.
I actually stopped. I was doing German for a while. I actually just stopped like 2 weeks ago because I officially lost my streak on Duolingo.
How'd you do that?
I forgot to do it, and
man.
and I thought I had one of those things
Streak
that
savers?
saved. Yeah, and I didn't. So
Would you like to know how long my streak has been going on for?
I'm sure it's gonna be discouraging, but go ahead.
If I can figure out how to. Oh, shit. Oh no, I just signed up for Polish. Fuck. Hold on, how do I go to
You know what
God-
though? I was like a week away from a year, I think, when that happened.
I am currently, and I have not had to use the streak freeze ever. I've never missed a day in 2,058 days.
That's insane.
That
how many-
is redonkulous, and I am not fluent in any language.
That's like 4.5 years or something.
It is a
Or
long
no.
time, and it's
Like that's more than that, right?
yeah. I'm at the point now. My main one is Spanish. So I'm at the point now where if a Spanish person spoke to me slowly, I would probably understand them somewhat. And I can read Spanish fairly well until I get into higher vocabulary that I haven't learned. I can write Spanish. Japanese is rough, and Irish is also rough.
Irish is interesting. How
I
many
don't know
days
why
did you
we're
say it
talking
was?
about languages. We need to be talking about A Memoir Blue.
We're fine. How many days did you say?
2,058.
So almost like 5.5 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, I watch videos of people that are on Duolingo, and I think they're just being paid by Big Duolingo, who I applied a job for a long time ago and never heard anything back, by the way. They, because they're in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
That's where they're located. But they, I see videos where it's like, I did Duolingo for 1 year straight, haven't missed a day, and they're completely fluent in the language. I'm like, fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
You did Duolingo, and then you did like classes.
Or
just
you
didn't-
went to the country. That's the only way you can. I think that's the only way you can.
You have to interact with people
Yeah.
on the daily who speak the language. That's what you.
Right.
That's how you actually learn, because what you learn on Duolingo isn't normally how people actually speak anyway.
Yeah, and honestly, even in classes, I learned more in Duolingo than I did in my 4 years of German, or my 4 semesters of German.
I
in
took
college.
French in high school, and I only remember the alphabet.
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 Um,
RT.
Anyway.
Video game.
A Memoir Blue has no words, literally. And my synopsis is that it's about a very accomplished adult woman who is dealing with childhood trauma from her parents' divorce and the struggles her mother experienced raising a child alone. And it's completely told through the manipulation of the character's surroundings. Would you agree?
I do agree, though I was very stupid for the first part of the game because for some reason I thought, and I think it was the writer in me making it way sadder than it was. I thought it was a story about a woman who lost her husband and then her daughter dies. And I was like, this is going to be so sad. But then I realized, oh, wait, no, it's the little girl is the main character and she's just talking about her being absent from her mom.
You thought the mom was the woman in the beginning?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't paying attention because when I was playing it, I had a real problem where it was lagging a lot. and I was just like, and then I realized I could turn the graphics down
Oh.
because I had it on the highest graphics setting. So for like the first huge chunk of the game, it was like lagging and it was kind of hard to play. So I wasn't focused on the story as much as I was trying to get the fucking cursor just to move right.
Yeah, I had the same. I mean, I didn't go as far as you did with that, but I had the same like slight confusion. Like, is the little girl the main character or is it the adult woman? But I got it pretty quickly. But yeah, that's basically everything this story is. But
And it had a happy ending.
it did, and you told me it wasn't gonna, but it did.
I heard it didn't, and I think people didn't understand the ending.
Maybe not.
The ending basically,
Well, let's wait.
well, even
But
I ended up watching a video of a guy talk about it, and at the end of the thing, he's like, "Oh, then the mom dies. Oh, how sad." And then she gets a phone call at the end, and then
that's
it's just
not.
like, okay,
No.
no,
So yeah. Well, so put a pin in that and don't forget it.
a DPW pin, which you could buy now. I'm just, I don't actually have them for sale, but I do have DPW pins,
You
and they
could
are
sell 'em.
tiny.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, they came in there very small. I ordered buttons though, so the buttons will be bigger.
Oh, wait. So what are the pins?
See, I made the same error. I thought, oh, DPW pins. I thought as
Yeah.
like the pins you put on bags and stuff. No, they're like push pins. So that was stupid of me. But the buttons are actual buttons that you put on stuff like book bags and things like
Oh,
that.
they're like
So
like thumbtacks.
yeah, almost. They're like DPW thumbtacks. They look stupid. I don't know. They're so
That's
small. I
funny.
mean, I guess they're cool if you want to thumbtack stuff.
That's weird that they even sell that.
Yeah, I don't. I made a critical error, but even though they'll be long out by the time this episode drops next week, my buttons come. I'm more excited for those because I could actually use a
Awesome.
button, and they're made of metal.
And I hopefully by the time this episode airs, we have I mean, we'll see, but we have long invented much more merch.
Merch.
I know we're gonna have. I mean, I don't know if we're selling these particular ones, but T-shirts. My mommy made these T-shirts, and they turned out pretty good.
I tried to order DPW T-shirts, and for 6 of them, it was $200. For 25 of them, it was $300.
That's crazy.
Stupid.
Yeah.
But I found out my sister. Well, I didn't find out. My sister does graphic design and stuff, and she knows how to do all that stuff. But she doesn't have one of those crickets. But she was talking about buying one. So if she buys one, I will give her money to do cool shit. And then we'll
That
have
would be cool.
unlimited merch, and it
Yeah.
won't cost us very much.
Yeah,
Just
that'd be
the
awesome.
price of the products and maybe a little labor.
Sweet. Should do that. So we kind of already talked about it, but my next section is talking about how the game works. But I mean, it's still relevant. So it's essentially point and click, like an old Deja Vu, Shadowgate kind of thing. But and weirdly, don't you feel like we talk about point and click shit all the time on this podcast?
I think it is an untapped market.
So weird.
I mean, it was tapped by PC geeks in the 80s, but lately, not so many point-and-click games. Not as many as you'd think.
Yeah.
Maybe there's thousands of them on Steam. I never actually looked, but I'm assuming it's not a hot genre right now.
And speaking of which, I feel like it's weird. I don't know if that is actually speaking of which, but it just popped into my head. I feel like it's funny that I'm just now thinking of it that this was made in 2022 because I felt like the graphics looked much more aged than that. I mean, they were good. I'm just they felt more like PS3 era than current gen.
It got a little awkward because there was 2 distinct art styles. You had a cartoon style which represented the past, and then the modern style was supposed to be like a modern digital anime style. So that's fine when they were separated, but near the end, the realistic style mingled and interacted with the goofy cartoon style, and it looked weird to me because it almost looked like those old movies like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you'd have the cartoons and then one human.
Yeah.
It's like that guy doesn't fit in.
Yeah. But even aside from that, I just felt like the modern, whatever you said, like the modern like 3D anime or whatever, that it just didn't look as it felt like playing something like, not that, and I'm not criticizing BioShock, but it felt like BioShock-ish. Like, do you know what I mean? And that probably even looks better, and that was PS3. But do you know what I'm saying? It's like it looks really good, but it's also kind of like it's got like you can, I don't know, the edges don't look right a little bit. Like,
Yeah, I could be incorrect, but I think this game was made in 2018, maybe.
oh,
I know it
maybe.
came out in 2022 because that was the release date. But like I said, I think I said the lady. I think it was a lady. Whoever made this game. Shout out to person who made the game. I don't know your name. You put your blood, sweat, and tears for this game. We don't even know your name. I'm like I said, I think they did it for their master's thesis.
Oh, really?
So
That's kind of
I'm
interesting.
assuming that was years ago, and then a company. Let's see. So a prototype of the game was shown at Indiecade, and Annapurna Interactive reached out to publish the product. So the game was announced and showcased on the July 2021.
Shelly Chen.
Shelly Chen. So it is a lady. That's what I thought. You know what? I don't want to gender people, but watching this, like the whole time I was like, this is very feminine, not just because the characters and the subject matter, but just the way the art style looked. I
Hmm.
just thought in my head subconsciously, I think a lady made this. And I
Well,
was
yeah, and
probably correct.
we'll get more into it, but as I was playing it, I was like, there is no way that my wife can watch me play this game.
She's gonna cry.
She would just be bawling. Yeah, that's an interesting backstory. I had no idea. Uh, yeah, basically you just like drag objects around to do things. Like you're interacting in the beginning, you're interacting with the character's ice in a glass of water, and you're like pulling the ice down to the bottom of the glass. And when they hit the bottom of the glass, they turn into a goldfish or a fish. And you do it with the other one, it turns into a bigger fish. And or like you move the seaweed out of the way to access a path, or you disassemble stage decorations when the main character is accepting an award for, or like she swims and she's really good at swimming, so she I think she always gets like first place or whatever, and so she's on the stage accepting her medals and stuff. Um, so yeah, you like interact with the stuff around the environment, and each time you interact with something the right way, a little bit more of the story unfolds, and that's basically all you do. But it is really like zen.
This game also was I don't think there's a term for this, but a visual version of ASMR, whereas a lot of the things you do on the screen are very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like, let's say if you're one of those people who have a steamed up bathroom mirror, like after a shower, and you take pleasure in wiping the steam off, you actually do that in this game. Not a mirror, but something like glass or something like that, but you do that a lot in this game. You're cleaning off dirt and just different things where it's just like the strokes and the motion of the cursor. It has this very satisfying feel to it. So I think people would enjoy it for that. It's almost soothing, I would think.
Yeah, and in the way that this is not technically a game, it's those interactions are more about the drama of performing those actions rather than doing them to serve an actual uh, end purpose. You know what I mean? Like you're not, you're not wiping the steam off for clues. You're just doing it because it's something that's in the character's mind and something from her past, I guess, technically.
The whole game is you are going into the deep recesses of the character's mind and unlocking this trauma that she
Mm-hmm.
went through. And even to the point where you go through a vault. You go through it goes deeper and deeper, and it's harder and harder to get to the core trauma, but she eventually does get there as you unlock things and go through things. But it's not a puzzle game. It's not hard. It's just more of like you said, point and click, and just doing things to get the visuals to come across.
Yeah, and I've been kind of holding out on like really talking about what it's about, but I feel like if we just talk about it and then go back through about the parts of the game, it makes more sense. So like,
there's fish in this game, and I didn't get the fish metaphor. I think it represented the mother and daughter because there's one
Oh,
big fish and a little fish,
yeah.
but I don't understand the fish.
Well, it's just so yeah. Let's just go from the top. So the main character is a swimmer. We know that already from the beginning. The very beginning, it's the main character getting a bunch of photos taken, and it's like annoying the crap out of her. She's like flinching at every photo, every flash from each photo.
She
And
won a prize, a bronze medal or something along those lines.
yeah, for swimming. If I didn't say that already 5 times. And so she's a really good swimmer. She has been since she was a little kid. And then
She swims real good.
and then that was a good input. And then
I just wanted to help.
and then it shows her just kind of collapsing on her couch in her apartment around all of her trophies and stuff from swimming over the years. And I don't know if you see it in the beginning, but in the background there's pictures of her with her mother. And once she like collapses on her couch, you start interacting with her glass of water and the radio and her phone that's ringing. And
You could also spray the thing in her bag and make it spray all over the glasses. I don't know if you noticed that.
I went for the phone too early and I missed all that stuff.
Steam has these stupid achievements you could unlock by doing dumb shit like that. Like, ooh, I steamed up the glasses and I got them all wet. I got everything wet.
Well, I hope you
Everything is
feel
wet in this game,
proud.
by the way. Everything
Yeah.
is wet. She's always in the water and the ocean.
Yeah.
Water, not just from swimming. I again, more metaphors. This game is just one big metaphor, really.
Yeah, it
Or
is.
a bunch of
It's
little metaphors.
because I think water is the metaphor first because she was a swimmer as a kid, and second because
She swims real good.
because because you know who I hear swim real good?
Who's that?
And I think they'd be really good additions to this game. The guys from Contra.
You beat me to it. I was saving that. God damn. Contra
The
would have made
guys
this
from
game
Contra
amazing.
and just
Could you imagine?
nail everything. And
You're going deep in the ocean. All the coral are lighting up. You have this emotional scene unfolding before you. And then you know what happens? Guys from fucking Contra come blasting. Blast all those bad memories away. Game over. That's all you need.
That's
Maybe
how
a
you
missile.
take care of
A
trauma.
big yeah.
You don't need no
Contra the
medicine.
fucking trauma away.
You
That's
don't
what I
need
do
no
in my life.
thinking. You just need bullets.
Bullets. Unless bullets are the base of your trauma, then don't use bullets.
But anyway,
I'm just saying, if
Back
you
to
like
this
survived
tragic
the shooting,
story.
you probably wouldn't want bullets involved in your solution. Maybe the opposite of that.
so where was I?
You were talking about fish.
Yeah, so water. It's first it's relevant because she was a swimmer as a kid, and second it's relevant because she has felt totally burdened by this childhood trauma her whole life, and she feels like she's drowning. So what happens is you kind of mess with this radio that's sitting on the coffee table, and then once you do it the right way, and you interact with some other things around the apartment, her apartment kind of just gets flooded with water, and she's like asleep in the water like a big fish tank, and then it starts getting trippy from there, and like the ground has like light shining out of it, and you interact with the ground, and it breaks open, and then she swims down into the sea from her apartment, and then it just gets, from there on, it's just like extraordinarily metaphorical, and the fish thing starts with that glass of water in her apartment before all of that I just described happens. But the fish from there on are all throughout the game.
They weren't
But
ice
there's-
cubes, by the way. They were whiskey stones. They were made of metal, and metal doesn't float.
There were whiskey stones?
Yeah, why do you think it clinked so hard? It was like metal.
I don't know. It's a video game.
They were solid and silver. They had to be whiskey stones in a glass of water, but they were floating. I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. Why did fish come out of it? I don't know. I don't get it.
I think it was ice, but anyway.
Ruined my whole game experience. No, it was
Yeah,
definitely
when
whiskey
the
stone.
when the ice hits the bottom of the glass, they turn into fish, and it's one little fish and one big fish. And yes, it is a symbol of the mother and daughter because as it's revealed as you interact with all these sea imagery
Well,
pieces
wait
of
just a
environment.
gosh darn minute. Then who was the third fish? The dad?
I don't remember the
There's
third
three
fish.
ice cubes, whiskey stones in the glass.
Then probably the dad, because they were the only characters in the whole game.
I'm gonna look this up because I'm pretty sure. You keep talking. I'm gonna look up the video if there's one because I know there were whiskey stones. I know whiskey stones when I see them.
Well, it doesn't really matter if they're whiskey stones or ice, but I just think they were ice cubes. But well, I'm sure it was supposed to represent the main character, her mother, and her father. And pretty quickly you learn that the mother and father didn't get along, and they got a divorce. And the main character like witnessed some of their fights and stuff, but ultimately she ended up with her mother full time, and the father just kind of disappeared from her life, and you don't really get an answer about that. But what happens is she develops trauma because she loves her mother so much, and that looked like a smile because you were right, maybe, about the whiskey stones. But anyway,
Whiskey stones don't float. I don't think. What if they do, Bryce? What if they do? It's very important.
I don't think it is important, but basically, what I'm trying to say is that the main character, I mean, we don't know any names or anything even, but the main character loves her mother so much, and they have it's really good times when like right after the divorce happens. But soon the mother has to like really take her life seriously and get like a really good job and like take that totally seriously and invest her time in that. But that ultimately means that she can't spend as much time with her daughter, and she has to answer her phone all the time. And that means that whenever her daughter is doing well in things like swimming and whatever, I mean, we only see swimming, but you can imagine other things too in her life. Her mother's distracted or doesn't show up right away, or
And she was a good swimmer.
yeah, she was
She
a good
swam good.
swimmer.
She swam good.
She swam very good. She did.
The classic story of a kid who's pushed to be an overachiever, but then the only person they want to come and see them achieve is never there.
Yeah, but
Sad.
ultimately the point of the story is that peace and solace is almost always something found within, and the story begins and ends with the main character sitting on the couch in her apartment with her phone ringing. But by the end, she's able to transform from her depressive state to a state of peace. And it's because she, within herself, like we were talking about the vault and everything, like she opens that up, and that's when she like finally she meets her mother again in a way, and kind of reconciles the things her mother did wrong within herself, and her memories, and she's able to forgive her for what she did. And I kind of get that. I get that people might think that her mother is dead because she has to like go inside herself to forgive her. But I think the only person that it would even make sense that who is calling her is her mother. I think her mother wasn't in her. I think she just probably like let her mother, blocked her mother from her life for a while. And that probably was her mother calling in the beginning, and she didn't want to answer. And every time her mother calls, she probably gets really upset because she loves her mother, but she ultimately caused all this trauma for her, and it makes it hard for her to interact with her. But by the end, she answers the phone, So it's like she's able to recover from that. Just like it's good. It's a mental health thing, it shows how going inside yourself and just being gentle with yourself and everything is an important process. I don't know.
The one thing about this game I didn't like was that you didn't get the mother's perspective other than that she had to work a lot. So if you look at it like, sometimes we lose people in our lives and we don't know why. If the mother is still calling her, then she still has some relationship with her daughter. So there's a good chance, unless they had dialogue about this, which the way this plays out, you assume it hasn't been because she had to overcome this emotional damage that's been put on her through her life. you would have to assume that the mother doesn't really know why the daughter feels the way she does or why she's pushed her away or doesn't want to talk to her. So you'd get the mother's pain. Like you see the mother crying and being sad when they interact at the end in the lady's not even memories, just in her inner self, but you don't get what the mother would actually feel like. So you don't know if the mother knows that why the daughter feels the way she does. That was my only issue with it because
Mm-hmm.
there's no closure there. It's led to believe that the mother's the one who's calling, and then she decides to finally answer and talk to her mother, and then you think, okay, they're going to reconcile. But as far as we know, the mother doesn't know why they're reconciling. She doesn't know, because if from her perspective, she had to feed her daughter. She had to pay for all the swim classes. She had to pay for her to go to the Olympics and all that shit. It's not free. So the daughter almost, from an adult standpoint is being, and maybe from the mother's standpoint is being selfish and not talking to the mother. But then from the daughter's standpoint, all she sees is an absentee mother. So, and no father. So it's tough. It's that layer of I don't know. It's like how things get really muddled in relationships, and that no one's actually wrong and no one's right.
Mm-hmm. And but I would say you don't need to see the mother's perspective only because I feel like the thing is that she's as the main character as an adult is going back through her memories, and because she's an adult now, she has that perspective, or she's gaining that perspective at this point. And I think that's the whole point of like going back through the trauma. It's like, or like through what caused it. It's like she didn't, she never took the time maybe to really think about why it hurts so bad. But as she went through it and as she opened that vault and like was able to see her what her mother was doing and like why she was distracted and not present all the time. It's kind of
Hmm.
like, oh, she's just taking care of me, and
Well, as a
she
kid, you
cared all
don't
the
see that
time.
stuff. Like as a
Yeah,
kid, you don't
I
see that
think,
stuff. You just see, oh, my mom's not here. Like that's the
yeah,
only thing you really notice
and I
because you
think
don't
that's
have an
how she was
understanding.
able to reconcile it because as an adult, she looked back on it and she was like, oh man, like if I
Well,
had a
yeah, once enough time passes and then all of a sudden you have to get a job and pay for things, you understand how the world works. As
yeah,
a kid, you don't. And by the way, this was based on Shelley Chen, the creator's actual childhood. I don't know about the swimming part, but I'm assuming her relationships with her parents or things of that nature. So there is a lot of basis and reality in this. And I know a lot of people who've gone through this. I mean, even myself, I've been to different events where parents don't show up and you just feel like garbage. You're like, oh, they don't care, but you don't know what they're actually doing. Maybe they were working or they had something important to do and they really did want to be there. Or you get the other side of the coin where they just pieces of shit that don't care about their kids. Obviously, in this situation, I would assume judging by what we saw, the mother did care about the child. Obviously, there was a really close connection there, and she did go to the early swim meets and things like that, and she was very involved. But as real life pulled her away and she had to work more, she just wasn't able to. And I think a lot of parents could relate to that because you want to be there for every moment of your kids' lives. That's what's important. But then we have this bullshit capitalist society that
mm-hmm,
makes it so a lot of us can't be there for our kids all the time.
right. So, what do you think was your favorite environment manipulation or your favorite like object in the game?
I really like the part where you're ripping the is it on a subway or like you're ripping the pictures down?
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, you
Um,
like there's like you know how there's like pictures on on a bus or a subway or whatever, and like but it was like it was supposed to be
it was
like
her
pictures of
memories.
memories in her on the subway. So she'd tear them down and there'd be another one, and she'd tear that down and there'd be another one, and uh
For
I
fun's
don't
sake, I also like when you get to trash the room. before you leave.
Oh yeah, that
Like
was
you
pretty
just break
cool.
a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
That was just because there's a couple scenes where it was more interactive than others. Like there's a boat scene where you get to kind of control a boat and just make it go around in circles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't very deep or anything. It was just kind of fun.
I really liked, so like the first point where I was like, oh, this is clearly about like someone who's like severely depressed. It was the beginning when you, I think before the room floods, you're like looking out the window and interacting with the billboards and stuff, right? And
Yeah.
then but what you have to do is actually interact with the sun, and you pull the sun down and turn it into nighttime. And it was kind of an abstract thing. I didn't think I was supposed to do, but I figured it out. But that was pretty cool, and that was a clear, like, to me, it was a direct metaphor for it always feeling like nighttime when you're depressed. And
All those night scenes, like when you're in the like you open the one like garage or storage area and there's just a bunch of umbrellas, and then you turn the light on, and then when you shut it, it goes to like a silhouetted memory of them in the rain. Like that was really cool.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff like that.
It's a beautiful game.
Really
I mean,
is.
like you said, maybe it's
And
a little dated in the looks department, but I mean, compared to the stuff I'm normally playing anyway, I thought it looked
yeah,
really good.
no, I mean, yeah, it looked really good. I just noted. I just assumed it was a little older than it actually is. That was all. And I don't really care about graphics that much either. But so two more things for me. I really like the part when you're swimming like across the pool
Mm-hmm.
and
And it gets
like
like real dark.
yeah, it was like really spooky. Like I don't know. It felt like the beginning of it of her
It's like darkness is
trauma. Like
engulfing you, and it's
yeah,
first person's perspective when you're doing that.
yeah. It's like the feeling if you like if you aren't a good swimmer and you jump off the diving board and you go real deep for the first time, and then it's like this is never gonna end. I'm never gonna get to the top, and then it starts getting feeling dark and you feel like you're drowning. And yeah, um, or in other games it just looks like dark spirits are attacking you, kind of like it starts getting splotchy and black inky. Yeah, it's just to me it was like that was like a moment where the trauma was like really solidifying in her, and I think it was both that and just her like staying underwater as long as possible to avoid facing things, and then as soon as her head pops up out of the water, it all clears. But I don't know, that part was visually really cool. My favorite thing though is the radio. And that's like the main object in the game. But I really
What's
liked
with
it.
you and these fucking radios?
That's
Like,
true.
you love the radio and
I didn't even think
auxiliary
about
too.
that, but
You just love radios. Are you just an old timey radio guy? And don't you
my
have a poem about radios too, or something?
yeah, because my dad collected transistor radios and he
Yeah,
would buy them broken on eBay and then fix them. He
you
has
got a you got
he
a deep seated radio lust.
dude under my dad's bed, my mom and dad's bed, just radios. That's all. And then in the basement, he has like 3 shelves, radios in plastic like grocery bags and Ziploc bags and boxes and stuff. He has fixed like I don't know, like 300 radios.
The real life radio man.
He's insane. Um, but the thing about the radio is that it's the one constant that's been in her life, and it's the one thing that uh she and her mother shared when her mother was first divorced, and they like danced and snuggled together with the radio playing, and then eventually she took the radio. She even when she stormed out of the house when she was mad at her mother for being the way she is, and she stormed out of the house and looks like she went to college or boarding school or something. And she brought but the even though she was leaving her mother, she brought the radio with her, and she would turn it on whenever she. I mean, you get the feeling like she turned it on whenever she felt like she got lonely or something,
Yeah.
um, and
You know what? I don't want to cut you off, but
Oh,
that
go ahead.
brought another cool scene where you're flipping through the radio stations,
Yeah.
and instead of being the stations, it's like a picture of a memory. So
Yeah.
like there's one that's like a boat, one that's like the carousel she was on. So you get like cool things like that, but it's in like radio waves kind of.
Yeah.
Like it looked really cool.
Yeah, I like that. I liked all that stuff with that radio. Oh, it was really neat. There's a lot of cool little, I don't know, cool little visual things, and
It
in
was
that
very
way,
creative.
yeah, and in that way, it is like you're getting like the visuals of this character's inner dialogue, and it does feel very much like a poem, but in this case, it's almost like a little better than a poem because it's like I have never, I don't think I've ever felt so much playing a video game before, especially one without that didn't have any words, didn't speak at all, and in some ways it affects you more deeply than an actual story or poem. Um, and it made me think of how like when you read a poem, you can kind of get what they're talking about, and maybe if it's like really strong, you can feel a little bit of something, but then wait until you hear the author read it out loud in person, and then you like
Changes it, yeah.
it's like so much deeper, and like it like strikes really does something to you. It was kind of like that.
I can see a game like this totally breaking a person if it's something that's very relatable to them. For me, well, I did relate to it. I mean, it was okay, but I can see a different version of this kind of game, like really getting to me. Like, because everybody has their own little triggers and things they're dealing with. So I could definitely see another iteration of this game that would make me feel a lot, sobbing and all that kind of stuff. But I think it was pretty emotional. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it
Yeah,
was really cool and really creative too. Like the art and stuff was really cool.
definitely, and the music too. Like the only time you do get words actually is there's I don't know who the artist is. I didn't look that up, but
Yeah, I've almost forgot about that. The music was really good too, and it was
yeah,
like perfect, like counterpoints to what you're seeing on the screen.
yeah, there were like 3 songs I think in the whole thing. And this game is only an hour long, by the way. If anyone is interested in just something really short, I played it in a night, like
A little
between making
longer if you
dinner.
struggle with the one stamping scene where you got to stamp the stupid tickets.
Yeah, I did struggle with that. I forgot about that. Thought I was supposed to like match it exactly or something,
Yeah,
but it
fuck
wasn't.
out. Know what the fuck I was doing? Just in there smashing it.
But yeah, so there's that music, and it almost sounded like to me it I don't know if you've heard any of Tessa's stuff, but my sister-in-law sings, and I thought it sounded
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
very
like,
like folk type of music almost.
yeah, it's
Like you
very
think of
like,
like a Simon and Garfunkel, like kind of that, like a deeper. I don't really know how to describe that stuff, but I like it.
yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah. Um, and in the beginning I said that my wife would be like bawling if she watched me play this because and the main thing is that because it's about divorce and she's always like worried she made like the wrong decision or whatever or or worries that her daughter is gonna resent her in the future or something for doing what she did, stuff like that. But and that's like standard things I think everybody who has to go through a divorce thinks about. And in this case, it's a case where like the girl did resent her a little bit, and I think I think if Sharia saw that play out as I was playing it, I mean if I felt deeply playing this game,
Yeah, that wouldn't
she would
work
have
out.
been like tormented by it.
That'd be something she'd dwell on for a long time.
Yeah. So it's super deep, and it's just I'll say it again, and it's just incredibly well done for there being absolutely no talking or text. It's abstract in the beginning, but as it goes on and as you think about it after you're done playing it, it's kind of plain as day. It's kind I mean in that way it's like a poem. Like if you read a single poem, maybe not if you're reading a whole book, but if you read a single poem, you don't quite know what it means, but then you let yourself ponder over it over a week or so, it just all starts to come together and totally make sense.
I concur.
Yeah.
And
Very
they
good.
and the girl in this, she swim good.
Yeah.
She
I
swim
think,
real good.
you know what I would say is she was a good swimmer.
She was okay. She
Yeah.
was all right. She's pretty good.
She swam in the water at that.
Like, she didn't have to breathe in the ocean.
No.
The fish were envious of her. She was almost a human fish hybrid. Almost.
This game was an hour long. We've already talked longer than the game is.
And we haven't even gotten to the Contra remake. Dun, 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 dun.
No, but what we are at this point in the conversation is top 5 times. Are we ready?
I guess. I want to eat some food, but all right, Bryce,
So do
we'll do
I.
your top 5 times, and then
All right. First of the top 5 times, Caleb. What
Me,
is the best place you went swimming?
I actually have 3 different best places, so not one can be attributed as the best place. Um, I just think of different memories I have of swimming because I actually grew up a big swimmer. My dad had a giant in-ground pool, and I love swimming. I spent my summer swimming, and some of my favorite memories when I was a kid. And you're not supposed to do this, and I know people would really be upset if their kids did this. When there would be like a big rainstorm at night, I would sneak into the pool because they had a pool light, but I would turn the light. I'd just leave the light off, and it'd be completely dark, and I would just go in the pool and butt naked, and I would just go in the pool and just lay on my back while it was raining. It was just a really cool experience. And obviously, with lightning and stuff, you shouldn't be doing that. But I didn't get zapped or anything. So that was one that was like burned into my memory. Is just something that's very like the physical sensation of like the warm pool and the cold rain, and then just the sounds, and it's kind of muffled because your ears are under the water, and then you're just you're floating on the. I don't know. It's just really cool. So I guess it was like a precursor to going into like those float tanks and stuff like that. That are very popular now. It's almost like that. You get different sensations. I didn't know that then. I was just a kid, but it was really cool.
That sounds awesome.
Another moment in my life that stands out. There are 2 that deal with beaches. One, some years ago, I went to Grand Rapids, and north of Grand Rapids, about an hour or so, they have famous dunes, and it's just basically a desert around a lake, and it's really cool because you can walk through a desert and get severely sunburnt like I did. But on the other end of that desert is Lake Michigan, I believe, and it was the first time I've ever been to that particular lake. I always been to Erie, and it had water that stretched on for a good distance where it was not very. It was like shin high up, maybe waist high, but you can kind of wade in it. And I kept going. So I went out fairly deep, and there was no one around because nobody's walking across the fucking desert in 90-degree weather. And I was swimming and stuff, and I was having just the grandest time. And then I realized I was surrounded by garbage. Bryce, can you believe it? Garbage. I was incorrect. It was not garbage. What I perceived to be plastic bags were jellyfish.
Oh.
Thousands and thousands of
Oh,
jellyfish.
jeez.
And I've never encountered jellyfish. I did not know there were freshwater jellyfish. And I was immediately petrified that I was going to get stung. And then I was like, what the fuck do I do? But then I thought, I calmed down, I relaxed, and I went, well, they haven't stung me yet, and they're all over me. And I just kind of floated with the jellyfish for a while. And when I got home, or I think our Airbnb or wherever we were staying, I looked it up, and apparently those jellyfish do not sting. So I lucked out on that part. But it was a very interesting natural experience. You kind of become one with nature. You're floating with the fish, so to speak. And then my last one wasn't so much a swimming experience, though I did some swimming. The last time I went swimming in the Atlantic Ocean, I went with a buddy down to Virginia Beach at the height of COVID, and it was a very stormy day. He got sun poisoning. How the fuck he did that? He's a ginger. I don't know, but he got sun poisoning on a rainy day. And so I went out hammered drunk. I'm talking almost a whole bottle of whiskey I was drinking since getting there. I stumbled down to the beach at night. It was like midnight, 1 in the morning. Climbed the lifeguard tower, spilled the rest of my whiskey, which was very upsetting, and then just proceeded to watch the most glorious storm come in on the over the Atlantic Ocean in the distance. Just again, lightning. Probably shouldn't be out in it. Just lightning and wind and rain, but in the distance, it never got to me. And that was also a very rewarding experience. And those are the moments, almost always solitary moments, but I
Yeah,
really hold those dear.
it's awesome.
What about you, Bryce?
I never heard of those jellyfish. That's really interesting.
It was very cool and kind of scary.
Yeah. For me, I don't have any complicated dream like unique experiences like that, but I have a kind of funny one. Mine is just the creek in Loyalsock and around Williamsport where I grew up. We would go there to swim. I think mainly because we didn't want to pay to go to the pool all the time. But
Yeah.
I remember hearing stories about how there were like crazy otters that were starting to like attack and kill people in that creek. I think I'm like someone can look this up and tell me I'm just full of shit. Maybe I am combining two different separate stories that have nothing to do with my geographic location. But I remember hearing about these otters that attacked people if you were swimming in the creek. So I always thought about that whenever we went there. Mainly what I did there was just like skip rocks and crap, and like I got scared of. I remember being like really scared of the crayfish around there.
They got pinchers, man.
Yeah, I never been one of those people who can actually touch those things, pick them up. But another funny thing is, I remember specifically one time we went to the creek all together, like me and my one other brother and my mom, and my brother's wading around in the deeper part of the creek, and he's like, "Oh my God, I found a wallet!" And he opens it up, and there's like money in there, and then he like looks for the driver's license, and he's like, "Oh, it's mine. I just dropped it a minute ago."
Fucking jackass. My wallet.
Yeah, so that's my swimming memory. Okay, number 2. The time you most let your imagination really get away from you.
There was this bout of, let's say, a couple months when I was a younger man. I was reading a lot of these books about chivalry and knights and, like the King Arthur tales and things like that. And I got really into it. And for some reason, it kind of warped in my mind where it became a reality. And I just started going on adventures. I put a bucket on my head. I got on a fucking donkey I stole off a farm, and I was just jousting people in the streets, and I was just a knight errant, and I just loved it. And turns out that was I went to jail, and it just turns out none of it was real.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was under the assumption that was real and you were like Tom Sawyer or some shit.
No, I've been reading Don Quixote, and this is the exact scenario of that whole entire. That's the whole premise of the book. Is his imagination gets away with him, and he's just a jackass. I couldn't really think of a good answer for that. I'm a writer, so I always have just bouts of long daydreaming, but I've never had anything detrimental happen because I was lost in my imagination. I never had anything incredibly impactful, and I don't do hard drugs, so I never had any kind of experiences with that, but. Just as far as enjoying just getting lost in your imagination, I do that all the time. So I don't have a specific one. What about you?
I went dark with mine.
Oh God. And then I was butchering and killing.
Oh, it's not that dark. It's just like I consider this my imagination. It was just like
Push somebody's grandma down the stairs.
Freshman year of high school, I got really depressed because I started thinking about death all the time, and I couldn't get my mind off it for like months and months. And I went down all these detailed avenues about like what ifs, what will happen to me when I die, how finite life is, and that I just like that was just one of the big times where, and I remember thinking things like it made me overthink like everything, like how things were made. Like it mostly I was just depressed about death, but my mind started getting so intense that I started like being overly curious about how, I mean, not curious enough that I was actually trying to figure it out physically in my hands, but like trying to figure out how things were how things worked, like electronics, like room fans or what a thing that was one specific I remember. But I things like that, I nothing made sense to me anymore. And I just like over my mind went overkill, and it was one of the first times, if I look back, that I'd really noticed how obsessive my mind can be. But today, while I still do those like negative spirals sometimes, I've also realized how good it is to have that kind of obsessiveness for creativity and for like following through on passion things. Um, because obviously, I mean, like I get preoccupied with working on stuff for the podcast or with my writing if I get into those zones at the proper times, and it helps me get things done. And I've just, I started really diving into this podcast thing and spending money that I shouldn't spend, and it's because I get obsessed. But it helps, and it feels good to be obsessive about healthy things and be able to use it that way. So yeah. Number 3, an object that unexpectedly one day held enormous sentimental value.
You're gonna be disappointed, Bryce, but
Okay.
I don't have that said object because I learned many moons ago that it was just better to let go of the past, and a lot of the things I had when I was a kid, I just got rid of them. I still have a few boxes of different things, like old writing from when I was a kid and just stuff like that that I have, but I don't ever, really look at it and dwell on, oh, life was different back then and get that sentimental melancholy because I used to get into those kind of funks where I'd get like, I don't know, you get drawn into the past and then it's hard to get back into your present. And I never really liked that kind of thing. So when it came to things with sentimental value, I just felt that those kind of hold you back sometimes. And then you almost become obsessive with them sometimes. And I just didn't think that was healthy. So I gave up any of those things I had long ago. I did have them once upon a time, and I couldn't tell you what they were because I don't think about them anymore.
I get that.
Don't
I
you say
think
radios.
no, I don't think I get like I have some of my dad's radios, but I don't feel like super sentimental about it technically. But uh for me, since I do have that obsessiveness in my brain, um I don't have a lot of things like this, but if you read any of my poetry, you'll find several objects like this. I do talk about radios in my poetry, and I don't know, a variety of objects, but I think the thing that pops out in my head the most is my grandmother's piano. She had
Mhm.
an upright piano, and there's a video of me as like a 1 year old, um, playing piano next to her, and every time I see it, it makes me teary. And my grandmother passed in 2017, um, but my mom has the piano now at her house, at my parents' house, and she's always talking about how she wants to get rid of it because it's just a big thing in the way that nobody even plays and nobody knows how to play and all that stuff. And I'm always saying you cannot get rid of it, and she's like, "Sorry, I'm going to." And it's so frustrating. It's one of those things where it's like I makes me so upset that I can't have my own house and I have this little apartment
Yeah.
because I have no place to put it. and it's probably just gonna get like demolished because like, and also she said that nobody buys pianos anymore, like
Mm-hmm.
like old ones anyway. They if people like you have to pay to get rid of a piano because nobody even wants to take them. Like, nobody will even take them for free. But yeah, so that's
Well,
my.
you have to ask yourself what is important, the piano or the memory? And if you get rid of the piano, do you actually get rid of the memory? No.
Oh, but I like it.
Yeah, I get it.
The time you were awarded something and realized how fleeting the high is.
Uh, never really been awarded anything worth anything valuable, like, or anything. I never won a medal or anything like that. So the closest thing I can say, anytime in the gym when I set like a new PR and I'm super pumped, that maybe lasted not even the day, and then I'm chasing the next one. Oh, I gotta do better. Um, and then more recently, like getting published and stuff, and I have my publishing goals. Then you get published, and you're like, "Oh, that's cool! I'm so excited for 5 seconds." And you're like, "Okay, I need something better." And then "Oh, I want a print book." And then you get published in a print book. That didn't even you get the book, and "Oh, I see my name in a print. This is so cool." That lasts fucking 20 minutes, and then I'm like, I need something else. I need." So I think it's just gonna be endless for me. I can win the Pulitzer Prize, and that won't be enough. Like I don't
I
think I'll
know.
ever be. You know, I don't think that excitement and that high will ever last.
I said the same thing. I don't think there's anything else like that because it's just weird because you care about it so much because it's like writing is basically our life and our lives, and so like the main thing you want all the time is to get published, and then you do, and then it doesn't matter anymore the second it happens. And and the worst thing is like, especially if it's like I got published a couple times when I was in college, and then I stopped writing for years. And then when I started getting published again, I got that first one, and I was like, "Oh shoot, no way, that was fast! I got it right away." And then you like when you get those publications, you start like looking into it, and you're like, "Oh, this is a good publication, right?" And you look into it, and like, "Oh, actually, they publish everyone they get submissions from," and then you're
Yeah, so you
like,
feel like a
"Oh,
loser.
well, yeah, exactly. I'm just a big fat idiot," and
Well,
then
here's
you
the
realize
thing.
they got
Like,
to keep
say,
trying for better and better journals, and then pay for submissions and stuff like that.
but I know what's gonna happen. Like, we'll get published in like the New England Review or Missouri Review or any of these respectable bigger journals, and we'd be so fucking pumped. Like, we made it, we did it, and that's not gonna last very long before we're like, well, now I get into like the Atlantic or something or the Paris
Yeah,
Review,
I
and then if
mean,
we get in that, what is it, the New Yorker, and then
right,
what? Oh, well, now I just gotta fucking get a New York Times best-selling novel. Like,
because
when is enough enough?
like all these poets and writers who have like a whole set of books that they've published in the past, and they're still trying to get into the Paris Review and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you think they're doing that? Because they can't get enough. It's like you have to always be doing the next thing, and it's no matter what, it's like the next achievement, and yeah, so it's hard to hold on to those satisfying moments and not just always be looking for to get the next one.
I would be happy if they would at least last a week or a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like this last thing we got published, and I thought I was gonna be pretty jazzed about that for a while, and it came in the mail, and I looked at it, and I almost immediately was just like, I don't like how they did some of the editing on this. Like I just didn't like I
Yeah.
wasn't excited at all anymore. It's like, god damn it. And it's just like, when does that end? When do you just see your name and published in something respectable and you're just like, it's great. I'm so happy and I'm
Yeah.
always gonna be happy. No, you never are.
No. Yeah. It's frustrating. It is nice though, I will say, the experience of getting a book published because I mean, at least in my case where I have to wait a year or over a
Mhm.
year, because mine doesn't come out until next September. So I kind of have that long build up. Though I'm sure the day it comes out, I'll be like, yep.
What's
Was.
next?
Yep. The top time you resolved a tough issue purely within yourself.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be a top time. I've never been like an angry person, but I would have a very explosive temper. So I was probably letting things build up inside of me. So I was one of those people that I would be very calm and collected for a long time, and then all of a sudden, usually something stupid would set me off to like an explosive kind of rampage for a moment where I would do something very regrettable. And over the last 5 or 6 years, and maybe it was just age or just learning how to get my anger out in a healthier way, I've really learned to curtail that and let go of the anger. And also, another one that was very important was learning to understand where other people are coming from. So when I think like a simple thing, somebody cut you off in traffic and they flip you the bird, and you're like, "What the fuck?" and you want to just run them off the road and kill them. Uh, Anymore, I just think they must be having a worse day than me. Like I just try to like I'm just okay. Like obviously, if they're doing this, they're having a lot more problems than I do, and I just let it go immediately. And I think that's a lot healthier way to live life.
Cool. Um, for me, I said that this is always the thing that pops into my head when I think about like my independence growing, or blossoming. When I first went to college, I went for art education, and I did it for like 2.5 years. And I like all art stuff. Like I like all of it. I'm not great at like I'm not super good at drawing. I can paint. I can if I'm copying something, I can do charcoal really well, and I can paint half decently. My big thing was ceramics, and that was like the main thing that I was enjoying in high school, and that was how I got into the art program at my college. But as time went on, and I started actually doing my art ed classes where I had to actually like teach, I realized that didn't feel like it was right for me. Like I felt really weird about going and having to talk and like fill the silence for teaching a whole class, especially like little kids who I didn't
Hmm.
have a lot of experience communicating with at that point. Um, so that like kind of really freaked me out. Anyway, the thing that I resolved within myself was deciding to switch my major, and it was the first time in my life that I ever decided to do something without consulting someone else. I may have like asked other people about what they're doing, but I never like asked my family. Like I for like years I would always ask my brother for advice. Like what do you think I should do here? Like I don't know. Like, it's because I'm like the baby in the family, so I was always asking my middle brother what he thinks I should do, and uh, or my mom, and this was the first time I ever was just like I'm gonna fucking do what I want to do, and so I went and talked to some people in the English building, and I switched my major to writing, and I got a minor in literature, and I completely got out of art, and never looked back, and even though I don't have a job with my degree, I'm still probably in a better spot with a writing degree than I would be with an art degree.
Most likely.
So there we have it. That was top 5 times with Arcade Bookshop.
Yeah, boy.
Alrighty. So everybody, stay tuned for next episode, and we'll be discussing The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner and why we coupled it with A Memoir Blue. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and share it with your friends if it's their thing. Please remember to rate and review if you haven't already, as it helps us continue to grow and get out there. Seriously. If you like listening to us, please rate and review. We want to be able to have a true audience and know more of what you all like, what you dislike. We want to give you stuff. We want to do giveaways. We want you to have things from us and enjoy the show with things in your hand. You can follow us on Instagram at arcade_bookshop to see all our updates, occasional giveaways, and our play and read schedule to play and read along with the show as it airs. If you have any game and book recommendations, you can DM us there as well, or email us at arcadebookshop@gmail.com. We'd also love to hear your cool ideas for the show and not have to think of them all ourselves, because it's hard. Caleb, how is DPW going?
Well, I don't know how it's currently going when this episode drops, but as of the recording of this, it is gangbusters. We've had a whole month of guests. Oh my goodness.
Woo!
That is Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. You can just Google at DPW Podcast and we'll come up. We're on all kinds of stuff. I might even have more videos out for books and shit.
And not every episode talks about pedophiles.
You know, most probably do mention it, but that's not by choice. It just happens. Don't ask. Don't ask Bryce. He just is a creep and he just wants to talk about this. And I don't want to talk about it. It just keeps happening. We have guests come on and start talking about Lolita. And we got fucking Spencer on there making Michael Jackson jokes. I'm like, what the fuck are you people doing?
It's
But
legitimate.
it's a fun time. It's the
legitimately
darker
about writing.
arcade book. It's the darker side of the arcade book. Like you over here with us, we're the yin, and then the other side's the yang. We're the dark. You got the light and the dark. Where DPW talks about the, we get down to brass tacks. We get down to the dark, gritty alleyways, and we dig up the. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know
Bryce.
what you're
wanna
talking
go.
about
My
either.
laptop's dying.
Yeah.
It's blinking. It's yelling at me.
I got a headache.
Yeah, we did a lot of talking.
It's
How
been
the
almost
fuck
2 hours.
Dude, how did we talk about this game for that long? And then we got Sound and the Fury. This is going to be 8 hours.
Well, sorry, everybody. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to us for 2 hours every once in a while. And remember to do as we do, although I don't right now. Keep a controller in one hand and a book in the other.